Howdy partners, it's your old buddy the Reddit writer. Welcome back to the Reddit Ranch. Come in and sit a spell and listen to the mighty fine tales I gotta tell. Our first story today is from a young tenderfoot that grabs his lady friend from behind, and well, she don't like it much.
AITA for scaring a family friend by grabbing her from behind, as a joke? Hey everyone. Long-time lurker, first-time poster here. I'm 17, and I happen to be close to a woman named Sarah, who's 27, since we're neighbors/family friends. Sarah is a captain in the US Air Force, and, well, if I'm being honest, I really have the hots for her. Yes, I know the feeling is not mutual though, and I think she's so cool. She always looked after me as I grew up and has always had a very doting kind of personality. Last month, Sarah came back home briefly to check in with her parents, and she and her family happily invited my family to dinner that day. So we were at their place, and everything was going fine. And maybe I was just trying to be funny, I don't know, but just to flirt with Sarah, while she was greeting and chatting with my parents, I came up from behind her and kind of aggressively put my hands on her shoulders and said, "Long time no see." This made her scream, and she started crying and panicking, even after I let her know that it was just me. It got so bad that Sarah's dad took her to the backyard and spent a bit of time getting her to calm down and stop crying. But she did calm down, and she apologized for freaking out, and the rest of the evening went by normally. Later on, during the evening, I did apologize to Sarah for scaring her, and she said that it was alright, no biggie. However, she did firmly let me know to never grab her or touch her in any way like that again. I also joked a little bit about the fact that I actually made her cry, because it was the first time I've ever seen her cry, and she just smiled and said, in a snarky sort of way, "Well, you would be crying too if you were in my shoes." AITA?
Well, son, I'm not going to call y'all a cow patty. I mean, you didn't mean no harm to the little lady. Although, I don't think I would have teased her about making her cry. I probably would have asked her why. 'Cause I think something mighty nasty must have happened while she was deployed. As her friend, she might just open up to y'all. Next we got one from a little filly that simply can't bring herself to become a buddy to her childhood bully. Trust me, when y'all hear what this sidewinder did, y'all wouldn't want much to do with him either. Oh, by the by, I'm putting a trigger warning in this story cause it deals with unaliving yourself.
AITA for not agreeing to be friends with a guy that bullied me in high school? I'm 25, and I was severely bullied in high school. I was considered quite chubby. I think I was 130 pounds at the time, 160 centimeters, and I had a bit of a stutter. The stutter was because of anxiety, and it would only happen when I was around people that would be mean or bully me. In my junior year, a boy in my grade joined in on the bullying. Let's call him Jake. He was so much worse than everyone else. He used to follow me on my walk home and pour things on me, push me into bushes or into oncoming traffic, etc. He once pushed me into a lake when we were on a school trip when he found out I couldn't swim. I could go on and on about the things he did to me, but we would be here all day. After one particular incident where he made fun of me for my appearance, I really couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't the worst thing he did, but it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I tried to unalive myself, but my uncle found me and took me to the hospital. I was in a coma for 11 days. I didn't go back to school after that and was homeschooled for my senior year. I never spoke to anyone from my school except two girls, Kate and Sarah, who checked up on me at the hospital. We're still friends. I moved away from that town after high school. I'm back in town for the first time in 7-ish years now. My cousin is getting married, so I'm here for her wedding. I decided to come a week early to spend time with my parents. I went to a bar with Kate and Sarah a couple of days ago and I saw Jake. I didn't recognize him at first, but Sarah told me it was him. I felt kind of anxious but decided to pretend like he wasn't there. He approached us as we were leaving and said hi to me. I said hi and engaged in the small talk. Our Uber arrived, so we said, "Bye," to him and left. He sent me an email, not sure how he got it, but I've had this email since high school, so maybe he's had it since? I don't know, that was quite long ago. He apologized for everything he did and said he's mortified he was even that kind of person. He said it's been haunting him since he heard of my attempt and he's deeply sorry. I replied to him saying it's alright and I forgave him a long time ago because I didn't want to hold on to hate and resentment from high school. I ran into him again at a pharmacy and he asked if we could talk. We went outside and he asked if we could go for dinner as friends and catch up. I said sorry, but I would really rather not. He asked why I can't go for dinner if I've apparently forgiven him. I said forgiveness doesn't mean I have to engage or be friends with him, and I simply don't want to be friends. It'll be weird given our history, and I'd rather not be reminded of my high school years. He looked bummed out but didn't insist and left. He sent another email 3 hours ago saying he can't bring himself to forgive himself if he doesn't feel like I have, and that me refusing to even have dinner with him makes him feel like I haven't forgiven him, and the guilt is eating him up. I replied saying, I'm sorry, but I'm not having dinner with you, and you should take that up with a therapist. I've told you I have forgiven you. I just don't want to have dinner with you, and I'm not going to force myself to do so to ease your conscience. I told my parents of this whole thing and they said I'm being too harsh on him and that I should do what I can to make him forgive himself because no one deserves to live with guilt. They said one dinner is nothing and I should just suck it up and go. I said no and kind of got angry at them. I really don't know whether I'm being irrational or not. AITA?
No ma'am, y'all ain't a cow patty. Trust me, I myself know a thing or two about bullies. I've been bullied a lot when I was a younging. And y'all's folks are wrong. After what this sidewinder had done to you, he deserves every bit of guilt this cow patty feels. In fact, I'm a little surprised by their reactions. If my younging had a bully in their lives that did to them what he did to y'all, well, let's just say my reaction would be a little different.
My brother found out that his son isn't his and my relationship with my brother is destroyed forever. I'm 32, and I am one of 5 kids, the third boy and youngest child. My oldest brother is Joe, who is 38, and my second oldest brother Jet passed away a few years ago. Joe has spent the past 2 years being a widower and my second oldest. His wife, my sister-in-law, passed away due to an illness, and it was devastating for the family as she and Joe had been dating since they were teens, and our families were pretty close. Years ago, when I was around 12, I had an obvious crush on my sister-in-law and even told Joe that I was gonna steal her away one day, but no one ever really paid it any mind because I was a kid. I carried a torch for my sister-in-law for like a year and then I started crushing on someone else. It used to be a joke in the family because of how ridiculous it was, and I can honestly say that I never thought about my sister-in-law in that way ever again. Fast forward to my sister-in-law's final days, after the doctors have told her and Joe that there was nothing else science could do for her, and my sister-in-law had a come to Jesus moment and confessed to cheating on Joe around the time she got pregnant with my nephew Junior. This confession was made privately, so a lot of us didn't hear what was actually said, but my guess is that in the moment Joe said he forgave her and or it didn't matter, and then she passed. Fast forward a few weeks after the funeral and I start to notice Joe being cold and passive-aggressive towards me and only me. I had no idea why, and when I would try to ask him about it would either brush it off and just shut down. My girlfriend Ashley said that it could just be the grief talking and to just give Joe some space, so I did. Then at a family barbecue at my parents' house, Joe blew up at me and told everyone what my sister-in-law had confessed. Everyone was shocked and upset by the news because Joe and my sister-in-law had been together since they were teens, and our families were good friends with each other. Joe also said that my sister-in-law admitted that it was with his brother and accused me. I was shocked by the news and denied it. Joe didn't believe me, citing the crush I used to have on my sister-in-law as evidence. I was completely offended and tried to point out the ridiculousness of the idea before walking out. The next day I got a call from my sister Jane, who said that she was scheduling a paternity test for me and Junior so we could get this resolved. Again, I was offended and refused to do the test because 1, I didn't like what this implied, and 2, even if the test proved that I wasn't the father, it didn't mean that Joe wouldn't stop suspecting me. Joe tested himself, and after he was proven not to be the father, things started getting worse. Joe started telling extended family and I was being pressured to do the test, and people started thinking less of me because if you've got nothing to hide, this shouldn't matter. After Joe started harassing Ashley and wrecked my car, I caved and did the test. Surprise, surprise. I'm not the dad, and just like I suspected, Joe still wasn't convinced that I never touched my sister-in-law and wanted to take another test. My mom found some hair in an old hat of Jet's and used that to prove he was the dad instead of me. Since then, people have come to apologize, and when Joe tried to reach out to me I told him to go F himself and that he was just as dead as Jet to me. My family is trying to get me to forgive Joe given the circumstances, but I think I've done enough by eating the cost of repairs instead of pressing charges in order to get insurance to pay. How can I get my family to respect my choice?
Well son, I ain't gonna call y'all a cow patty, but I do believe my reaction would have been a mite bit different. I would have gotten past the whole insult of being accused thing and volunteered to take the DNA test, if for no other reason that the younging ain't mine. And I think y'all might want think about forgiving y'all's bro. Don't forget, not only was none of this y'all's fault, but it wasn't his either. Okay, damaging y'all's car was pretty stupid, but he was just acting on what he was told. I do reckon the only two who are at fault is, and please forgive me for walking on their graves, but your sister-in-laws and Jets. So, y'all might want to at least think about forgiving your bro. The last one we got is from a young lady that doesn't want her mother-in-law to be around her younging by herself.
AITA for not wanting my mother-in-law to be with my baby without me around. My mother-in-law and I have a strained relationship. There has always been some tension, but it got worse when I was around 7 months pregnant and her, my brother-in-law, and sister-in-law moved in with my husband and I for a few months while their new home was being built. I had a very emotional pregnancy and was very overwhelmed with having a full house while preparing for the arrival of our first child. My mother-in-law also was a bit overbearing with our unborn baby, saying she was her baby, wanting a full nursery at her new house and making plans to keep the baby overnight as a newborn, which we never discussed doing. A lot of tension built up between my brother-in-law and mother-in-law because I was emotional and reacted irrationally to the smallest things. After I gave birth and was myself again, I apologized to my brother-in-law, and he completely understood, and we've been great since. When I apologized to my mother-in-law, she wasn't as forgiving. She was still a bit overbearing as well, just being overall very possessive towards her. Unfortunately, for the first couple of months, our baby was very attached to me since I'm a stay-at-home mom and am with her every day. Every time anyone would hold her, mother-in-law included, she would kick and scream and cry. After a couple of times, my mother-in-law stopped interacting with her. Now that our baby is older, she's 1 now, she doesn't react in that way, and she's allowed my mother-in-law to hold her without getting upset. Now my mother-in-law wants more one-on-one quality time with our baby to bond. The issue is my relationship with my mother-in-law has gotten worse, and it is clear that she still does not like me. On numerous occasions I have apologized for how I acted while I was pregnant and have tried to reach out to hang out and mend our relationship, but she has declined invitations. We have a family vacation coming up and she mentioned she hadn't gone shopping for it yet. I invited her to go shopping with my husband and I, and she replied with, "I'm going to watch the baby," and then I replied, "I thought you said you needed to go shopping too." I asked her again if she wanted to come with us and she declined. My husband wants to drop our baby off at her house while the two of us go shopping, which I thought was weird because we usually all shop together. He eventually told me she specifically wants to spend time with our baby alone and she doesn't want me there. This upset me and made me feel like she genuinely does not want a relationship with me. I told my husband I'm not comfortable with dropping our baby off with someone who doesn't like me, and most likely doesn't respect me. And if she wants to spend time with our baby, I would rather us all be together. Once we mend our relationship, I'll be more open to it. Just to note, I have never denied her time with our baby. The three of us usually go to her house and hang out for a couple of hours whenever she asks us to. But my husband says I'm getting in the way of their relationship and am weaponizing our baby. AITA?
Well, when we were expecting our youngings, my wife wasn't all that ornery, but I can see how some might be. What your hubby's ma needs to realize is that it was nothing personal. And well, if she can't get past that, well then, it's on her now, ain't it? If at any point y'all don't feel comfortable leaving your younging with someone, then don't. Discuss it with your hubby, Then maybe he can talk it over with his ma, that might help. Well, I plumb reckon that's all the time we got today, but if y'all like this here video then please, hit like and subscribe, it'll really make this old cowpoke smile. And if y'all got anything to say, then feel free to tell me what's on your mind down in the comments. Until y'all come back to the Reddit Ranch. Adios.